Welcome to What Shall We Say to These Things. This is a side conversation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. We haven't recorded one in a minute, have we?
Yes, I don't remember how this works. I'm MG.
And I'm TJ.
Yes. And today we want to talk about... I pronounce his name different every time I say it. Jabez's prayer. We had... One of our aunts asked us to talk about it for family worship. And it really struck a chord with us.
Might have been an orchestra.
Yeah, so we wanted to talk about it here as well. You want to start? Or?
I think that I've always, not always, that's a stretch. I've been familiar with the prayer of Jabez for a couple of years. Our parents a couple of years ago had lots and lots of little books, the prayer of Jabez, around the house. And I think I knew what the gist of the prayer was. And then there was this song that I love, like, "Oh Lord, bless me indeed. I pray for increase."
Right.
Yeah. So I was familiar with, like, the prayer. But I think in actively studying it to share with the family, it reaffirmed a lot of some of the things I said in our prosperity gospel side conversation. But yeah, so we'll go into it. Let's start from the top.
Yes. Okay. So the first thing we noticed, right, is that we went through and we looked at where it was taken from. It's taken from 1 Chronicles 4, verses 9 to 10. And if you look at the first...
Well, the prayer itself is verse 10.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
The first verse is just an introduction to Jabez.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And so we earlier in the chapter. First, I looked at earlier in the chapter and I'm seeing Judah's descendants. And then I'm like, what is this? And so I went to the beginning of Chronicles and I realized it's a genealogy list, like a lot of books in the Bible begin with. And so it starts with Adam.
Mm-hmm.
It starts with Adam and it goes through all our major patriarchs. I think we look at Noah. We look at Abraham, Isaac, Israel.
And son David as well.
Okay, there we go. And we have Judah, and then we have Jabez and his prayer just slapped in the middle there. And we're not quite sure what he's doing there because I went through looking. Who is he the son of? And nobody says it outright. Mm-hmm. We just left to assume that he's a descendant of Judah. But in the first verse, we realize that verse 9.
But like, what? Not to, sorry to cut you off, but like what I was thinking, right, is that we have all these well-known patriarchs of Israel, like all these great men. David, a man after God's heart. Abraham, the father of many nations. Jacob, also known as Israel. And like there are no blurbs about any of them. Like
we just list their names. Bam, bam, bam. These are their kids. Bam, bam, bam.
There's no background. There's no context. It's just Abraham begot, and his son was, and his sons were. Like that's all it is. And so I thought it was very, very interesting that outside of not giving us Jabez's, neither his direct ancestry or his descendants, because we get neither of those, but we get blurb on him.
That's true.
Yeah, we get context for him, which is interesting because we get context but no background, which is.
I've been thinking about it and I've been wondering if it's just that he was so well known. Like, why do I have to even put where he's from? Everybody knows where he's from, but I don't know. That kind of doesn't make sense.
Because even if you know, like, we knew who David's father was. We know who David's grandfather was, right? We know who his great grandfather is. We know that. We've been studying that. We know who Joseph's descendants are. We know he's the son of Jacob, who's the son of Isaac, who's the son of Abraham. We know this. But they still listed it. So I don't think, like, yes, I get what you're saying, that everybody might have known who Jabez is, but we know who all these other people are as well. Yeah. So they could have come through with the details.
Yes. So yeah, that was strange. But yeah, what we do know about him is that he was honored or honorable. Most of the Bible versions say honorable, more honorable. But we read an article that was the guy was saying that it's it may have the original word may have more closer meant he was more honored. So it was not about. I need to finish the sentence. Let me finish the sentence. Most of the Bible verses say that he was more honorable than his brothers. That tells us a little bit that that he had brothers, and that he stood out among them. Yeah, and he was a good man. But the guy was saying that it's possibly not. This possibly doesn't tell us about his behavior, but about how he was treated. So that he was more honored than them. But I see that a lot of the time we tend to honor the people who are honorable.
So that makes sense. Yeah.
It
goes both ways.
It goes both ways. Yeah. And then so that's how they introduced Jabez. One version I read says that he was the one who prayed, and I thought that meant that you
skipped a good bit. His name.
Oh, okay. Whoops. See, God helped him forget it, so I've forgotten it too. You want to take it away?
Okay, so besides knowing that he was possibly the best of his brothers, we are told how he ended up with his name. We're told that his mother called him Jabez because his birth caused her pain, and that was like the literal meaning of his name. And so when we talked about it in discussion, as well as when we shared it with the family at worship, we looked at the fact that this is a name that he would have had to carry through his life, and carry the knowledge that my coming into this world was so painful for my mother that she labeled me as painful.
Yeah. And I'm thinking about it. He's outside playing, and then somebody's just calling pain. Like how does that not affect you? Scar you for life.
And sometimes we end up in our feelings when our parents say we are pain in the neck. But can you imagine going as far as to give you that name?
Yeah. So that would have been traumatic. He would have been emotionally traumatized.
Yeah. So that was verse 9. So you can go ahead and get into verse 10, which is the prayer.
Yes. Right. Yes. And so the other versions, I was saying that one says he was the one who prayed, and I thought it meant that another thing to him being well known, right? But that's the only version that says that. All the other versions talk about him calling on the Lord, and TJ was saying that gives the imagery of it's not a quiet by his bedside about before he goes to sleep prayer. Yeah, it's not one of those. It's like one of those, I'm in distress, I lift my eyes up and I speak loudly, and that, we were saying, probably explains why his prayer is recorded.
Somebody heard him.
Yes. So his first thing is he goes, he prays to the Lord, calls out to the Lord, oh, that you would bless me indeed. And we thought that was significant because to do that is to acknowledge God as the source of blessing. And that in itself is exercise in faith, to be like, I understand that you are the one that all blessings and all good things come from, and so I'm asking you for those things. And we don't think about it a lot of the time, but that is an exercise in faith, saying that I believe that you are the source of blessings. So that's his first line in the prayer. And then he goes, this is how I know the prayer, this next line. Enlarge my, some people say territory, some people say border, what's the other?
Coast,
right. And that is how I know that prayer. That is the main thing I know about that prayer. That's how I associate that prayer. So I had come to think of it as the I guess prosperity gospel prayer. Yeah. And I like the concept. I feel like when the Israelites moved to Canaan, they each got specific pieces of land. And I guess as they fought their neighbors, the heathens that were there, they would take over their land. And so it must have felt like until we defeat our enemies, we have limited land. And so Jabez asking God to enlarge his coast, enlarge his territory. This I'm pulling this out of like absolutely nowhere, but it could have meant,
get rid of my enemies
and give me their property, because I don't think he wants to take the land from his brothers, right?
Yeah.
And his family. So and moving his property lines would mean taking it from other people, and those people would hopefully be his enemies.
I think something I was just processing is that even when we were discussing it and when we shared it with the family, we took it in a very literal sense of expand my territory, meaning my physical territory. But we could think about it like expand the area I have influence in, expand the opportunities I have, give me more opportunities. So I think it could be, yes, we talking literal land, but also give me greater room to be great. To be great. Yeah. That's what I was going to say. Give me greater room to be great, but also give me greater room to do good as well. Yeah, give me space to make a difference. Yeah. So that was something that just occurred to me.
And that would align with his whole honorable label.
Yeah.
Okay. Next, what was it?
I think he said, put your hand up. May I keep your hand on?
Be with me, right? And that, to me, coming right after the enlarge my territory, which was something I thought to be somewhat of a materialistic request. I think that is a reminder that anything we have, all of the things we have and the gifts from God they're not ours in the sense of stewardship, that he's given them to us for us to manage for him and to be used in ways that he approves of. And so the enlarge my territory should accompany the thy hand be with me, so that you can guide me and lead me in
how to use these gifts for you.
Yes. And how to use my influence, if we're looking at it figuratively as well.
Yeah, like Daddy said, for my good and for your glory.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. So I think those two always need to come together. Give me, bless me, and be with me. I think those two need to be to come together. And then he goes on to say, keep me from evil. Some versions say keep me from harm. And it's joined next to the next, it's attached to the next line, which is so that I some versions say may not experience sorrow or pain, and some versions say so that I may not cause it. And we think that relates right back to his name. Having lived his life with the label of a causer of pain, he does not want that to be his future. He does not want it to be something that he passes on. And so he's asking God to keep him from hurting others, keep him from causing harm, and to protect him from harm and pain himself.
And change this curse into a blessing.
Right. And what was I saying? Yes, and the last line of the section of the verse is, and God granted his request. And I think that's the most significant to most of us, that
it was an answered prayer.
It was an answered prayer, yeah. And it's just 2 verses, but I think there's so much we could learn from it. Yeah. So we had lessons. We did the usual. We asked the usual questions about
what can I learn about God? What can I apply to my life?
Right. And to the notes. TJ's main point was that
God cares about every aspect of my life, and I think in answering Jabez's prayer, God met like his desires for financial prosperity. If it was a literal request for more land, he dealt with his protection, keep me from harm, keep me from evil. And he would have dealt with his emotional well-being, because he was like, I don't want to live fulfilling my name, the meaning of my name. And I think that would have had some emotional weight for him as well. So in answering that, God was also taking care of his emotional well-being. And so I think it was that in answering Jabez's prayer, God was like, I care for every aspect of your life. And that's something that I can accept and I can acknowledge that God cares not just for every aspect of Jabez's life, but for every aspect of TJ's life. And every aspect of MJ's life. I'm not leaving you out of it.
Thank you. And that connects to the fact that he cares about what we want.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I meant to mention that last night, but I didn't remember. I think a lot of the things we want, once they can be achieved through moral, ethical means, they're not necessarily from us. They're desires God has given us.
Mm-hmm.
And so if he's given us these desires, of course he wants us to have them. Yeah. And so I don't think that Jabez's requests necessarily came from a place of selfishness, but out of his understanding what God wanted him to want.
His will for God.
Right.
God's will for his life.
Right. And that was something else I mentioned, that his land, his increase in territory would not just affect him, but all his descendants.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
We're passing the blessing on.
Right. Yeah. And another TJ point was about the labels.
Oh, okay. I think in answering, that goes back to God answering Jabez's prayer, but that God can take away not just the labels, but the meaning of the labels that people give to me and I give to myself. So in the video we just recorded, I think I made mention of calling myself a coward. I am a coward. But however, God has the ability to make me brave, even when I call myself a coward and when other people call me a coward. But I also need to trust him to do that, and I also need to stop calling myself a coward.
Yes.
In order for it to really, really be real. And so I think that's something that I need to take in, that even when people say things about me, whether they're true or untrue,
Yes.
I can trust God to take away those labels and the meaning behind them as well.
Beautiful. Okay, so that's what we learned about God from this prayer. What do we learn about how we should live our lives?
I can ask God for land. I can be like, increase my territory, God.
Yes.
Bless me indeed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Amen. Yeah. Every time we have conversations like this, I'm reminded of the fact that at one point in my life, I did not believe that Christians were supposed to be rich. And
who raised you?
I don't know.
Because that is not your parents' beliefs. So I'm very confused about where you grew up.
I don't know. But yeah. And so I've finally gotten to a point where any monetary and financial gain I receive is a direct blessing from God, and it's something I need to be grateful for. And all that I need to keep in mind is that he needs to guide the use of it. That's all. And I can ask God for land. That is a thing I can do. Yeah. Your other point was about names.
Okay. And so I think I very personally felt the weight of Jabez's name, being called pain. And so for me, I think my takeaway is that I need to be careful how I speak to others, like the labels I attach to them in their presence and even outside of their presence.
Okay.
Like just saying the words about people, just labeling them. I think I have to be very, very careful with that, because those things have an impact on people, and you have no idea how long lasting the impact could be.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think you when we were initially discussing it, you reminded me that you were sharing with me that it reminded you of Benjamin, the son of Jacob,
right.
and that his name was initially Benoni.
Something about pain.
Yeah.
I bore you in pain.
Yeah.
The son of my sorrow.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Basically.
Yes.
But yeah, I think while it's important to have meaningful names and to even use meaningful adjectives when we're talking to people, I think we also need to be very, very careful with it. So.
Okay. Yes, definitely. So be careful. That's how we could. Yeah, be careful with names. We don't want to cause the emotional trauma that Jabez experienced on other people. Yes. and on ourselves. We need to be careful, like you're saying,
Yeah.
how we refer to ourselves. And my last point is back to the financial aspect of Jabez's prayer. That's important to me. Did I say this already? I feel like
you were saying it, yeah.
Yes. Essentially that the material and the
guidance.
Oh yeah, they need to come together. The materialistic aspect of our lives, the things, the tangible, those things they mean nothing if we do not have God's guidance, His leading, and His presence in our lives. And so I think in all of my I guess business endeavors, in all of my my business ventures, anything that I want to succeed in, essentially, I need to make sure that I'm asking for God's guidance and His leading, because not only will that influence the success, I think, of it, but I think that's what's most important, and that His blessing me is so that I can bless others. But was it for my good and for His glory?
Yeah. Amen.
Yes. So this was a long side conversation. Yes, maybe we could put it in between before we start the
Genesis
story.
Maybe use it to split the Genesis saga up. But this is relevant after
Ruth.
Okay.
Alright, so this has been a What Shall We Say to These Things side conversation.
I'm TJ.
I'm MJ.
And until next time, we're out.